Let's start things off with something from my home state that I didn't even know about until doing research for this video. The gold rush first started in Arizona in 1858. Much like the other western areas of America, many people went out in hopes to strike gold, metaphorically and literally. From 1848 to 1853, thousands of people would venture out into mines and caves, trying to find deposits of gold, as well as copper and silver ore. As you might expect, people and their families struggled to eat and rarely had any money to purchase basic amenities. There's one story that takes us all the way to Kingman, Arizona. Kingman was first established in 1882, which had served as a military camp and reservation for Native Americans throughout its history, and was a hotspot for miners searching for gold during the gold rush. When Kingman was first founded, settlers named a specific area of the town Luanas Canyon, which was named after the matriarch of an impoverished family who lived in a small wooden shack in the middle of the Arizona desert. A husband, father, and miner of the isolated shack was also a dreamer and determined to find a huge deposit of gold so he can feed his family and give themselves a better life. As I mentioned before, many people struggle to eat and really afford anything. So the wife, Luana, and their children relied heavily on the miner to either find gold to sell or bring back animals so they could eat for the night. Every week, the father would go out to the northwestern mountains on his mule and begin his search for a better life. One day, he kissed his family goodbye and went out into the desert. The family, hopeful he would return, began to lose that hope as the days went by. Those days turned into weeks, and there was no sign of the miner. As these days went on, Luana began fearing the worst for her husband, thinking he had gotten sick, lost, or even worse, being killed by wild animals or a robber. Death during the gold rush was fairly normal, so it was not uncommon for situations like this to occur. Each day that passed, Luana inched closer and closer towards insanity, until one day, the family reached a breaking point. After seeing her children malnourished and suffering, watching them starve to death, she was unable to cope with this reality any longer. Luana then does the unthinkable. One night, during a very intense thunderstorm, her children were screaming, and their mother writhing in pain from hunger. She puts on her wedding dress and slaughtered her own children. That same night, she carried their bodies, which had been chopped to pieces, and discarded them into a nearby river. Her dress drowned with blood, she collapsed into a heap. Overcome with sadness, she remained there, wailing over what she had committed. She later succumbed to starvation the next morning, and her husband had never returned. This location earned itself the name Slaughterhouse Canyon after this urban legend. Today, the location can be accessed by the public, and some say that during a full moon, when the air is thick, you are able to hear the screams of the mother and the bloody cries of the children that were slaughtered just over 100 years ago. As the capital of the kingdom of Shu Han, Chengdu is the core of the whole original culture of the three kingdoms, as well as the political, military, economic, and cultural center of the Shu group under the rule of Liu Bei. This all occurred around 187 AD, But in more recent times, specifically in 1995, archaeologists made a very interesting discovery. These people discovered 3 ancient bodies near the Wuhou Temple in Chengdu, China. The archaeologists left, and when they returned the next day, the bodies were gone. Due to lack of any site regulations or security, they simply believed the bodies were stolen by grave robbers. Until a few days later, when another discovery had been made. In another location in Chengdu, 5 more bodies had been discovered, but of the 5 bodies that were found, 3 of them included the 3 that were originally found in Wuhou. Then, these 5 corpses came to life and attacked the archaeologists with their teeth. Some died immediately, while others slowly turned into similar beings. It is rumored that the Chinese government had used not only their army, but flamethrowers to destroy the undead before things got too out of hand. According to current research by Chinese netizens, the truth of this story may be a tragedy caused by rabies. A farmer in rural Chengdu was infected with rabies. He gradually went crazy, and then bit his own pig. He and the pig soon died. Due to the lack of medical knowledge, the farmer's family turned the dead pig's meat into food. Some days later, the whole family was infected with rabies and bit the residents of the same village. Do you think there's any truth to the original story? I'm sure all of you know about the disaster that happened at Chernobyl. For those of you who don't, here's a quick synopsis. In 1986, a Russian facility known as Chernobyl was inadequately operated by personnel, leading to the nuclear reactor to explode, emitting nuclear waste into the facility and killing some of the workers immediately, and others just days later. It's also famous for the elephant's foot, a large mass of corium and other materials formed underneath the Chernobyl nuclear power plant near Pripyat, Ukraine. During the Chernobyl disaster of April 1986, the elephant's foot is most notable for its extreme radioactivity. The elephant's foot was discovered in December of 1986, and it is located in the maintenance corridor near the remains of reactor number 4. Before the event, there's been accounts of weird circumstances some people have faced before the explosion. According to some of the survivors, they were either experiencing nightmares, threatening phone calls, and some even claimed to have seen a giant winged creature flying around the facility. It was described as a huge, human-like beast with massive wings and red eyes. Others have mentioned even seeing it over one of the reactors as it was going through the meltdown. If you're from the US, you might think this sounds oddly similar to the Mothman in West Virginia, which started showing up right before the Silver Bridge collapsed. It makes you wonder if there really are huge flying creatures roaming around right before a catastrophe occurs. So if you see any of these creatures on your way to anywhere, it's probably best to just go back home and hope for the best. In Egypt, there is a legend that one day, a woman had purchased a giant teddy bear. Unknown to her, this teddy bear was stuffed with the ashes of countless corpses throughout Egypt. Every day when she left for long hours, she would return to the teddy bear being placed neatly somewhere in the room. She at first thought it was her husband who was cleaning up, but when she thanked him for his good deed, her husband seemed confused. He had never touched the bear, and was unsure what she meant. So, the woman grew curious, and set up a plan to figure out what was going on. She acted as if she was going to leave for work, but returned just a few minutes later. When she opened the front door, what she saw struck her frozen. The giant teddy bear was found in the kitchen, cooking fries? In order to punish the woman, it attacked her and burnt her face. Yes, this is a real urban legend or story from Egypt, and I'm so glad it exists. Like a medieval dragon guarding its hoard of gold, the Grootslang of South Africa is a serpent-like creature that guards a secret cave filled with precious diamonds. Legend has it that the elephant-sized reptile has a deep lust for shiny stones. If you're ever in its terrifying grasp, offer it a diamond, and it may just let you live. English businessman and treasure hunter Peter Grayson had no such luck, as the Grootslang is rumored to have been responsible for his disappearance in 1917. The Grootslang's cave, known as the Wonder Hole, or bottomless pit, is connected to the sea, and it also lurks in rivers and lakes. Basically, you're not safe from it if you're anywhere near water. So if you ever find yourself traveling to South Africa, stay away from the water and the caves. Unless you want to try your luck with a giant dragon reptile elephant thing.